9:27 in the morning. The clock is a countdown to a global detonation. In 33 minutes, the United States Navy officially seals the Strait of Hormuz. But the Iranian Revolutionary Guard isn't waiting for the formal declaration. 40 Boghammer speedboats have already hit the water. They are doing 52 miles per hour, carving a white water path toward the American fleet. Low-slung fiberglass, lethal, loaded with 107mm rockets and enough explosives to turn a billion-dollar destroyer into a burning wreck. They believe the rules of engagement are an American weakness. They believe we won't fire until the clock hits 10:9:28. The decision is instantaneous. No warnings, no radio hails. The U.S. fleet shifts to an offensive posture 32 minutes early. The forward deck of the destroyer erupts as the Mark 41 vertical launch system cycles at maximum rate. A volley of AGM-114L Hellfire missiles, the longbow variant, streaks into the morning haze. These missiles don't need a laser designator to find their prey. Their internal millimeter wave radar seekers lock onto the thermal bloom of the Boghammer outboard engines the moment they acquire the target. Seconds later, the 57mm Mark 110 cannons on the nearby USS Indianapolis open up, thumping out 220 rounds per minute. These shells are fused for airburst detonation. They explode 10 feet above the waterline, shredding crews with a rain of tungsten. By 9:37, the 40-boat swarm is gone. There are no survivors, only burning oil slicks and sinking fiberglass. The preemptive strike has cleared the board. The message is delivered. The blockade didn't start at 10 o'clock. It started the moment they reached for their triggers. The White House has confirmed 158 warships are currently holding the line. This is the most concentrated display of naval power since the Second World War. 3 carrier strike groups, led by the USS Gerald R. Ford, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, and the USS Ronald Reagan, form a wall of steel stretching across the entire entrance to the Persian Gulf. The primary objective is the total kinetic elimination of Iran's mine-laying capability. Iran relies on the EM-52 rocket-propelled mine, a weapon that sits on the seabed and waits for the acoustic signature of an American carrier passing overhead. To neutralize them, the fleet has deployed the MH-53 Echo Charlie Dragon helicopters. These massive machines tow the EMAK-105 magnetic mine-sweeping sleds through the water. The sleds flood the surrounding ocean with a massive electromagnetic pulse, tricking the EM-52 mines into believing a 100,000-ton carrier is directly above them. The resulting underwater detonations send geysers 200 feet into the air, clearing the shipping lanes in massive, violent sequence. Iran attempts to strike back from the cliffs. They launch the Noor anti-ship missile, a turbojet-powered weapon traveling at 690 miles per hour, skimming the wavetops at 30 feet to evade radar detection. But the Aegis combat system is already locked on. The Spy-1 radar arrays acquire the missiles while they are still climbing over the ridgeline. The response is a coordinated wave of RIM-162 ESSM interceptors. These missiles maneuver at 50 Gs, faster and harder than any cruise missile in existence. They collide with the Noor missiles miles out at sea, converting them into fireballs. Anything that survives the intercept is met by the Phalanx CIWS, which creates a literal wall of 20mm tungsten fire across the final approach corridor. Iran's entire military inventory is being dismantled in a matter of hours. But while the world is fixated on the fire over the Strait of Hormuz, Russia sees an opening. Their strategic objective is straightforward. If the United States and Europe cannot communicate, the blockade collapses. They deploy their primary undersea asset, the Akula-class nuclear-powered attack submarine. A 360-foot shadow engineered to transit the Atlantic without producing a detectable sound. Escorting the submarine is the Yantar, a Russian Yuzhmor-Geologia-class research vessel, a mothership for deep-sea submersibles designed to reach fiber optic cables on the ocean floor. These cables are the nervous system of the Western world. They carry 97% of all transatlantic data, trillions of dollars in financial transfers, and every encrypted military command flow through these glass strands. Russia is moving to cut them. They believe that 158 American ships concentrated in the Middle East have left the North Atlantic wide open. They believe the king is too occupied in the desert to notice the knife moving toward his throat. But here is the truth that should chill every adversary of the United States to the bone. The diplomatic firestorm was a fabrication. The public fracture between Washington and NATO, the insults, the leaked arguments, the theatrical collapse was a manufactured script. The alliance the Kremlin believed was disintegrating was sharpening its teeth in the shadows. The United States publicly announced the withdrawal of its carrier strike groups and P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft from their bases in Norway, Iceland, and the United Kingdom. Moscow watched and concluded the North Atlantic was undefended. 1400 Zulu, North Atlantic Ocean. The withdrawn American fleet is not in the Middle East. They are 200 miles off the Irish coast, running under total electronic blackout. The moment the Russian Akula-class submarine crosses the invisible tripwire of the SOSUS array, the trap snaps shut. The lead P-8 Poseidon kills its engine noise profile and banks hard. Weapons bay doors snap open. It ejects a high-velocity pattern of 60 SSQ-53 Gulf sonobuoys. The canisters hit the water at 250 miles per hour, deploying hydrophones that sink to preset depths across the submarine's projected track. Inside the Akula, a 200 decibel active pulse hammers the hull. The Russian crew reacts immediately. They shove the diving planes forward, flooding the trim tanks to drive towards 1,600 feet, searching for the thermal layer, that gradient where water temperature shifts rapidly, bending sonar waves and creating a blind spot. But the Americans are already inside the layer. A British Type 23 frigate, which had been running silent on electric motors for hours, slams its Type 2 87 towed array sonar into active mode. The Russian boat responds by launching a salvo of MG-74 Corin II acoustic decoys. The P-8 Poseidon switched to multi-static tracking. One buoy pings. The rest of the grid listens for the specific acoustic shadow cast by the massive Russian hull. The decoys are ignored entirely. The Russian submarine executes a high-speed 360-degree turn, designed to clear the sonar dead zone directly behind its propeller. They are looking for an opening to fire a Type 53 torpedo and blast a hole in the net closing around them. They find nothing but more steel. A U.S. Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, the USS Donald Cook, appears on their passive sonar, closing at 34 miles per hour. Two Norwegian Fridtjof Nansen-class frigates are flanking them, their SQS-56 hull sonars slave to the American data link. The realization hits the Russian bridge with the force of a physical blow. The withdrawn Americans are right on top of them. The Russian submarine is forced into a defensive spiral. They fire their high-pressure water jets to mask propeller noise, but NATO sonobuoys are now dropping in a smothering pattern, one every 500 yards. The boat is boxed in. Every time they attempt to level off, another active ping hits them closer and louder than the one before. An AQS-22 dipping sonar, deployed from a hovering MH-60R Seahawk, punches through their last remaining acoustic hiding space. They are not being fought, they are being compressed. For 18 days, the pressure is unrelenting. Every attempt to surface for fresh air is denied. Every time they maneuver toward a position to deploy their cable-cutting submersibles, a P-8 Poseidon drops a pinger buoy directly onto their hatch, a clear signal that a Mark 54 lightweight torpedo is already zeroed on their position. Inside the submarine, the atmosphere becomes toxic. Carbon dioxide levels climb, temperature rises, the crew reaches a psychological breaking point. They are trapped in a sealed metal cylinder with no exit and no options. On the 19th day, the ocean surface breaks. The Akula-class blows its emergency ballast and surfaces in a massive cloud of white foam, surrounded by a wall of NATO frigates and shadowed by fixed-wing aircraft. One of the most advanced nuclear submarines in the Russian inventory, hunted until its crew could no longer breathe, forced into a public surfacing. The cables are secure. The hunt is finished. Back in the Middle East, the 158-ship blockade holds as an unbreakable cage. Iran attempts its final strategic play, deploying 3 Russian-built Akula-class submarines. These are diesel-electric boats, known as the Black Hole for their near-total acoustic silence when running on battery power. Iran believes they can slip beneath the destroyer screen and sink an American carrier, ending the blockade in a single blow. The U.S. Navy isn't hunting with torpedoes. As the Iranian Kilo-class submarines move into the deep water channels, the fleet initiates an electronic suppression operation using the SLQ-32 version 7 electronic warfare suite. The system floods the underwater environment with high-gain modulated acoustic interference. Iranian sonar screens fill with thousands of ghost contacts. Their fire control computers cannot distinguish between a wave, a whale, and a carrier strike group. Then the data links between the submarines and their shore-based headquarters are severed. The Iranian captains are suddenly blind, deaf, and completely alone. In the shallow, rock-strewn waters of the Persian Gulf, navigating a submarine without functioning sonar is a death sentence. The Iranian crews bottom their boats, sitting motionless on the seafloor with engines off, paralyzed by technology they cannot see, cannot counter, and cannot escape. The pride of their submarine fleet, turned into iron coffins resting in the mud, neutralized without a single explosive charge being dropped. The results of the 158-ship deployment are absolute. Iran's oil exports have reached zero. Their economy is in total freefall. Their Boghammer fleet is scrap metal on the floor of the Gulf. Their submarines are sitting in the sediment, unable to move or fight. In the North Atlantic, the Russian Navy has retreated in complete humiliation. Their operation to sever the global communication cables was exposed, countered, and defeated by an alliance they were convinced had already collapsed. The manufactured drama between the United States and NATO was revealed as the most successful strategic deception of the century. The U.S. Navy has demonstrated it can hold a 158-ship wall in the Middle East, while simultaneously winning a silent war beneath the Atlantic. It has the technology to blind an adversary, the patience to wait them out, and the resolve to finish what it starts. The blockade holds, the cables are secure. When the order is given and the moment demands it, the ocean belongs to us.